Alrighty. Today, I feel like the first couple of videos on my channel have all been pessimistic topics in terms of, talking about why the Leafs are bad, talking about why the Sabres are bad, talking about stuff like that, why Seattle's bad. So I want to talk about something that's more positive. And what I'm going to talk about today is some of the reasons why when people ask me, like, oh, if I'm just getting into the league, what's a team do you think I should follow? Like, what should my team be? If you were to pick a team just showing up, I would always suggest the Colorado Avalanche because I look at the way it's constructed. I look at the way that Joe Sakic runs this organization, and I see a team that is good now and going to be good in the future. Um, in almost every facet. Like, you look at almost every position this team has had over the past couple of years, and you look at their prospect pool, and they still really just have great names to come up. They're kind of I've given this suggestion for years, so they looked better a couple of years ago, but even still. So let's look at the team as a roster as a whole. Look at the top players: Mikko Rantanen, great player. Gabriel Landeskog, the captain. They just signed him for a very long time. Nathan MacKinnon, he's going to come up, but I don't think he's going to cost them as much money as the market would suggest. Burakovsky's fine. Kadri is great. He has problems. Cale Makar gonna get Norris votes, for the next 5 years at least. Devon Toews, underratedly amazing deal for them. That this trade. Eric Johnson's all right. Samuel Girard's all right. Bowen Byram, great player. I mean, he's only 20. He's only gonna get better. Their goalies this year, I think, look decent. I think Darcy Kemper coming in is good, but you have to remember that Darcy Kemper does get injured a lot, very frequently. And look at their average age. Look at their forward age group. Average age is 26 and forwards 25, and this is a young team. They're gonna stay good. And I think having a leader like Nathan MacKinnon, we all saw the tweet. So there, if you didn't see it, there was a story where Nathan MacKinnon apparently made a big point to make sure that his teammates ate right and ate healthy in the locker room. So he basically got rid of all the soda, the sugary desserts. He even replaced, he got rid of the white sauce for pastas. He replaced the regular pasta with chickpea pasta, stuff like that. And it's one of those things where it seems harsh, it seems aggressive, it seems like a bad idea in terms of creating a nice, calm environment. But for a competitive environment, I think it's probably the best. Excuse me. It's probably the best for the team that you have someone like Nathan MacKinnon, who is undeniably the best player on this team. The only conversation you really can have, aside from that, is Cale Makar, maybe. But you have Nathan MacKinnon being a huge leader and have expectations on the ice versus off the ice. He seems to keep everyone in check. And when people go to the Avalanche, you never really hear many stories of people going to the Avalanche and underperforming. They never really have a problem with that because I think they have this expectation of wanting to win. But then here's the problem. So we look at the Avalanche franchise history. While they've been in this window of a lot of people predicting them to win everything, they always come up short. Now, last year in the second round, they came up against the Vegas Golden Knights, who we would all agree that they're, in the regular season standings, the Vegas Golden Knights were number one, who was number one? The Vegas Golden Knights were number two, and the Colorado Avalanche were number one. So you can't be too mad at losing to a team that you're so close to in the standings, but you expect at some point this team has to win something, right? Go farther than the second round. Like, I'm expecting this group to get to the finals at some point. But they just... I'm trying to remember how I felt. Because when the Avalanche are winning, they are very dominant. They look dominant in each position on the ice. They have a really strong, fast offense. They have a robust defense that's hard to penetrate. They have everything a good team needs to win. But then you look at when they lose, they do look crumbly. It looks like they don't have their goalies figured out. It looks like their defense is a little too young, maybe. So, each year they should get better. I would say they're going to be better next year. I think, Bowen Byram's going to take a step. I think, Cale Makar might even look a little bit better. Samuel Girard, maybe. And I don't know. The main thing I'm trying to say is this is my team. It's not my team, but this is the team that I suggest to people. Like, if you want to cheer for a team and you're not going to have to worry about drama, you're not going to have to worry about, bad decisions in the office being made, and you're going to be disappointed. The only disappointment that happens is a second round loss, which isn't that bad. So, yeah, this is kind of the team I go against. The other teams that I suggest is because they're so new is teams like the Vegas Golden Knights, teams like I would suggest maybe the Seattle Kraken if you want to start off, but I wouldn't necessarily suggest them as much as I would suggest Vegas, because I don't see the Seattle being as good as Vegas right now or in the future, even though Vegas is destined at some point to really fall off. And anyone else? Are there any other teams that I would suggest? I think that's sort of like the top teams that I would suggest. Teams that I wouldn't suggest would be teams like Ottawa or Arizona, even Buffalo. Just teams that seem to be in permanent turmoil. Even though Ottawa seems like they're gonna have a good year this year, it would be crazy if they made the playoffs, but it's honestly not a 0% chance because they looked so good at the back end of last season. But they are going to be in a better division this year. And, it just is a thing with Ottawa where they look good, and then their stars just leave. With this owner, Eugene Melnyk, where you really can't rely on Ottawa with their pieces to stick around for too long. So I look at them as a team I just wouldn't suggest. I wouldn't suggest cheering for maybe a team like the Stars. I don't think the Stars really have I haven't looked at the Stars in a while. They're going to lose Joe Pavelski. They should re-sign him to $7 million. Radulov's going to run out. Maybe. It depends after this year. After this year, what the Stars can do is they can take all this money. They're going to get 15 plus 4.25. Well, John Klingberg, they have to re-sign, so they're going to have to give a lot of this money to John Klingberg if they're going to want to keep him, which they definitely should. God, they're stuck with Ben Bishop for so long. He's always injured. I like the Holtby pickup for them. I thought that was a great idea. Good security. Yeah. Roope Hintz at some point is going to need some money. I think they're in a weird spot, and they're not a bad team to start cheering for, but I could see this going way wrong. I could see them, getting this free agency money coming off the books and going really hard for Barkov or going really hard for a free agent next offseason to the point where they go too hard for those players and they don't have enough money for like Roope Hintz to be re-signed for a long-term deal. And then they sort of have this sort of second round maximum performance status to the point where they aren't going to get a cup with this group, and they won't be able to make the next group. So we'll call this group the Jamie Benns, Tyler Sagans, Alexander Radulovs. Like, that's the sort of this group, the Klingbergs. And then the next group makes up of like Miro Heiskanen, Jacob Robinson, and Roope Hintz. Like, they're a decent team, but they're not immune to failure, and I can foresee some mistakes being made with this team. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest this team. So to wrap up, I think Colorado is definitely who I suggest. If I were to do a secondary suggestion, maybe the Vegas Golden Knights. but Colorado is usually my go-to suggestion, and I think there's good reason. I think they're going to be in a window to, win some stuff for at least the next 2 years, while Nathan MacKinnon's still signed for a nice deal. And I believe in Joe Sakic to make the right decision in signing Nathan MacKinnon. If he hasn't won up to this point, I think Nathan MacKinnon will take a deal and take a discount. I think if he's won something, I think if he's won a cup, I think he'll take a little bit more. So maybe it's within their best interest to not win the next 2 years. We'll see. All right. That is all for this one. This was trying to be a more positive video. So if you want to have a more upbeat video, leave a suggestion in the comments, and I will try to pick one out for tomorrow's video. All right. Thank you for watching.